Hello, I am Jimbo Paris, and welcome to the Jimbo Paris Show. So today we have Sarah Alysse Rose, and she's going to be talking today about how she uses her techniques to help make the business environment more enjoyable for everyone.
Here's information from STOTT Nation.
Hello, how are you doing today?
I'm great. How are you doing, Jimbo?
Excellent, excellent. So can you begin by giving me a brief summary about yourself, who you are, what you're about, and what your message is?
So I'm a stress management coach based out of Chicago, and I work with people to improve their stressful situations at the workplace and at home, and also just in general to have more fun in their life so they can enjoy their successes.
How do you make them enjoy their successes more?
Well, we talk about ways that they are using their time. So let's say they are always at networking events, but they're only focusing on maybe business networking events. So thinking outside of the box, fun solutions for them to have after work versus keeping it pretty much, same pace all the time.
Okay. So can you sort of give me a bit of a story on how you were passionate and motivated into sort of doing this in your life?
Well, for me, I first started my journey with health and wellness. I was a burned out Pilates trainer, and I found that I was going to these networking events all the time with happy hours, and it really wasn't working for myself. So what I told myself that I needed to do was take on activities that brought me joy. So I love fitness. I decided to take yoga because I wasn't that great at it. And though it was challenging, it used a different part of my brain than I was used to.
And sort of kind of tell me why you value challenges. Why?
I value challenges so much because it makes me go into a different realm than I'm used to. And this way I'm using different portions of my brain because we tend to live in a flight or fight mode. And what I want to do is get outside of the box for my own self so that I can inspire others to do the same in theirs. And I love trying new things. And that's something I encourage all my clients to do as well.
All right. And how did you take your sort of motivations and passions and then build it into a business? Because that may have been a little bit tough, considering that you had to move from focusing generally on helping people to now turning that into a process where you have to market and use it to make money.
Well, I strongly believe investing in your own self is the most important thing you can do. So I found a business coach that spoke to my messaging, and we worked on my specific target market and the reason why I wanted to start this business. And it was to begin to work with corporate professionals on their stress, because I had experienced that firsthand as a burned out Pilates instructor, teaching corporations on how to improve their fitness. But there's so much more. And I think people get so wrapped up in fitness is the way to de-stress and get my energy out. But there's so many other ways to take care of yourself.
And can you kind of begin by getting into your 3 pillars now?
Yeah. So my 3 pillars are stress management and fitness and nutrition. And self-care kind of goes hand in hand with stress management. So I'll start with that one. And just ways to manage stress. I always start simple because people don't take time for themselves. So if we can find even a moment in their day to take a deep breath, chances are they're going to be refocusing in their energy and in their body systems and release some of the tension in their body. So that's always where I start, is with stress management. Then we dig a little deeper and we go and target what's exactly irritating your gut. So a lot of times it is hand in hand with stress, but oh, I'm feeling very much lightheaded in the afternoon. And then when I find out there's a lot of brain fog that is happening, it's because they haven't eaten that day, or they prolonged their meal. So they're waiting until the very end, or they might have had 2 cups of coffee. So they're all caffeinated and haven't had a glass of water. So that's the second one. And then I add the element of fitness, because that is what I started with. And when all is said and done, it's the last layer to get that health and wellness to come full circle for their life.
And why is stress the first one? Why do you think that one is so ideal?
I think it's the last thing that is taught to us as kids. And so that is the least likely thing that someone is going to work on managing in their life. And because of that, I want to get that as their way of starting their day. Is, what's your morning routine like? What's like one positive thing you could do that morning to set your tone of the day right? Versus, I have to move, I have to get out of my house, I have to have my 2 cups of coffee before I'm even out the door. Because chances are, when you live in that energetic level, that heightened energetic level, you're going to make mistakes at work. Productivity might be down. You might have not eaten a meal, and everything falls off the wagon.
And what do you think keeps all of this in line the most? I understand stress is the most important, but what do you think is the core fundamental that can keep someone consistent? Because you mentioned a lot on productivity, and you have to be consistent to sort of get that productivity working.
That's a really good question. I think with a lot of people, they need some sort of almost like a positive affirmation for themselves to begin their day, so that they can start to believe in themselves. Like if you start with a saying, I'm going to crush this meeting today, and you say it out loud and you hear yourself saying it, it's going to put you in some sort of energy different from maybe where you once thought that could be. So mainly focusing on the positive aspect of it, and start with small habitual changes, because that can lead to big results, and so that your productivity can increase.
Were there any influential people in your life that sort of moved this into you?
Yeah, definitely my father. For many years, he was my rock. And I saw a lot of my own tendencies in him growing up. A little bit type A, but also I tended to hold all my emotions inside. And watching him, he was the hardest worker I knew. So that was something I inspired to be. But then at the same time, I saw that he didn't make time for himself. So when he was exhausted at night, he would grab crappy things out of the fridge. And it made me realize that it wasn't something that he could continue with for the rest of his life. So although he was influential and he gave me the best advice ever, he gave me the gift of understanding what self-care meant and what I needed to do to improve my health. When I was around 26, he got sick. He was diagnosed with kidney cancer, and it metastasized rather quickly. And from there, in his last couple of days, he said, "Please, Sarah, please continue with your health journey. But I know you're just like me. You have your tendencies to emotionally eat. Like I've caught you, you've caught me. And I just want you to know that as your dad, there's so much more in this life for you. So just keep on pushing on and give your gifts to the world." So that was, it meant a lot to me. And I'm continuing with my purpose on my stress management journey in my own life and others.
That's very good. And I'm sorry to hear about that, but that must have really, you sort of carry that story now with yourself. So in a sense, you do keep that alive, so that's very good to know.
Thank you.
Now, what is sort of your ideal client? What do you think your ideal client is?
My ideal client is basically someone like my father, someone that is a high achiever, but tends to overwork themselves to the point that they don't understand how to make time for themselves. At the same time, they were able to listen, respond, and take action in their own life so that they can move on with their stressors and start a new story for themselves.
And what would you consider a client that may be better off going somewhere else?
I would say someone that consistently is telling themselves the same old story, or this also happens a decent amount. And I have a referral system of dietitians, but I think they want a quick fix. And so they sometimes want a food plan. And although a food plan is great, it's not going to get you a habitual change in your life. It takes much more than that. It's a mindset thing. It's a brain and body connection. I'm very big on that brain and body connection, because if you motivate the mind, the body will definitely follow. But understanding that they can do anything that they set their mind to versus living in their past and telling them, well, this is how I've been, just give me a quick fix. That's not going to solve everything.
And would you consider yourself more of an intuitive eater or more of a calorie tracker? I'm assuming you're a little bit more on the intuitive side. I am too.
Yeah, I'm definitely on the intuitive side. It makes a lot more sense. There's certain programs that I do promote. Some people love intermittent fasting, and I always say, hey, if that works for you, and if your doctor says that that's something that's okay, then sure, I can help you put that into your routine. But I'm definitely more suited, and I think because I had my own emotional eating issues, I'm an advocate for intuitive eating. If there's a PB&J you absolutely have to have that PB&J, but also pause before you have it and be like, is this really what I want right now? Or is my body actually needing, that fruit or some vegetables or a mix of a sandwich with all those things?
Right. And I think the thing that people get wrong with intuitive eating is that there's still rules. It's just that the rules are very flexible.
Exactly.
And because of that, you create a lifestyle. And I want to hear more about this mind, body, and connection. So how do you sort of see that?
I think it all started with my Pilates business, to be honest. When I was first getting into Pilates, it's all about breath work, right? Deep inhale through the nose, exhale, push all that air out, and you're really getting in there. And that's the first thing I learned. All my clients were like, wow, I feel these muscles that I never knew I had. And then when I started adding or layering on that health coaching component, I noticed that my clients were like, wow, well, I'm aware of my breath support, but I don't know exactly what's going on in the rest of my body and with the mind. So what I focus in on is that intuitive eating component, and then layering in stress reduction techniques, either, meditation or a fun activity for your brain, even a puzzle. You're using every portion of your body for that activity. So again, out of the box ways to go about self-care.
And why do you think this applies to people mainly in business?
I think they are, and don't get me wrong, solo entrepreneurs, you too, they are all also stress. But I think with corporations, because there's usually a boss and other coworkers that you have to get to know and relate with a lot in meetings, they have almost two different sides. They're kind of stressed out, working, hunched shoulders vibe, and then I'm performing side with their coworkers and bosses. So they're always on at the computer or at their meetings. I think they have a little bit of a tough time trying to balance it all.
You think they may have a tougher time than, let's say, well, they should though, compared to an average person that does more moving work, like an electrician?
I would say almost like electrician work would be therapeutic because you're using your hands, you're moving your body. You just focus in on the project and you don't always have to socialize. And especially for those that are a bit more introverted, being around people all the time could be exhausting.
And sort of, do you have some very interesting client success stories?
I do. And a lot of it has come down to the add of fun. And I never thought, to be honest, I thought I was just going to be a gut health coach and just specialize in that. And then as time went on, a lot of my clients, that was their underlying thing was I'm stressed out, corporate professional. And I was like, okay, let's reevaluate. So one of my clients is a CFO of her company, and she was spending hours and hours upon hours of work, and she never had an assistant. And I said, well, that seems a little silly to me because you're doing so much for the company. And we talked about it more, and it was because she's such a type A personality that she didn't want to let anyone else in to help. And I said, well, what would it look like stress-wise if you did add this person into your life and you taught them everything you would like to be done? She said, well, I think I would be able to have a lot more fun in my life. And so she asked her boss. She was a little nervous about it. She asked her boss, and he said, of course, we can start hiring a person right away if that's what you need. I don't want you to be stressed out of this job. And there you go. It was just a quick win for her. Another one of my clients, we had a whole gut health journey. So we were finding fun ways to cook because she was so sick of the regimented, and I'm sure a lot of people can relate to this, the regimented, I need a protein, a grain, some vegetables, boom, my dinner. Or that's my breakfast. That's my lunch, the same old thing. So I told her to look up Michelin star recipes or go to Michelin star restaurants and just play, try new things, get comfortable with being uncomfortable. And as soon as she did that, she looked at food so differently. And then 2 months later, she told me that her natural doctor, her functional medicine doctor, said everything was down. Her vitals were looking better than ever. And that just was my biggest aha moment. Like, this is where I need to be.
And when you continue on to build your business, what are some of the key products or resources you distribute to other people? Now, I think the Michelin restaurants was one of your pieces of advice, but what else do you sort of provide?
One thing that I provide for my clients is I have different workbooks. So I have an e-workbook, and it's called Follow Your Gut. And that's where I usually start with all my clients. And it's digging deeper into what's going on in the body. Kind of what I talked about earlier with the brain fog, identifying where this actually takes place. Like, is it actually your brain or is your stomach that's growling? And what do we need to do to replenish the body and then also the soul. So that's one thing I give them is my Follow Your Gut e-workbook. And then another resource, I just love recipes. The Minimalist Baker, for those of you that have a sweet tooth, that is usually a resource I give to my clients to kind of get them thinking outside the box for their desserts and choosing healthier options in the kitchen.
I'm interested to know, what are your rules that you incorporate into your system?
For me, I need a morning ritual. And even though sometimes I work super early, so I'll teach my Pilates students maybe 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. And then I have later clients. But I always have an hour and a half break in the morning where I focus in on me. So I journal whatever I'm feeling that day. I love puzzles. So that's probably why I tell my clients to do puzzles. I either do that or I read a wealth consciousness book to kind of get me in that headspace of the future self, because I believe that we're always growing as humans. I don't want to stay in one place. I always am wanting to learn. And then the other thing that I add is just a little silence to either breathe or just let whatever thoughts are going on in my head to release. So those are the three things.
And when you're trying to teach or coach people, you probably get a lot of barriers of entry, because I'm assuming a lot of these corporate people have never even really worked out before, probably, or never even dieted before. So that must have been, a very big thing. And, some people feel bad about that, and they shouldn't.
They really shouldn't, because everyone starts at their own journey. And whether you've never walked a day in your life or you're an avid biker and never weightlifted in your life, there's a program to meet your needs. So I really do. I emphasize that with any person that's new into my world.
And when you continue doing this, what were some of the challenges you faced, and what were sort of the ways you overcame them?
The biggest challenge for me was the pandemic, as I'm sure you've heard from everyone. It's been a crazy year, but it also opened my eyes up to the things I really wanted to do. I always dreamed of expanding my Live Well, Enhance You business. And one way I wanted to learn was to take a coach's advice and do a course with her and learn marketing techniques. And another thing that I took was this Be on TV boot camp, and then the program right after called Be Seen Accelerator with Chris and Jen. Of course, I can't think. It's like Gottlieb and Chris Winfield. But what I loved about it, it was getting me comfortable with being on camera. I was a musical theater performer in college, but this was such a different way. It was the first time I felt like I wasn't acting. I was just being myself and getting comfortable on the camera to say my message and what I believed in, and explain why I was an expert and why I was so passionate. It really changed my perspective of having my own business and made me want to be at the forefront for health and wellness.
And if someone was in your shoes, what type of advice would you give to them if they were going down the same path you were after going through those experiences you had? Because I think mistakes are sort of the things that are like stepping stones. They make us into better people. So how'd you use those challenges you had how would you have used them to help other people?
I would say the number one thing is do your research. That's the one thing I'm really happy I did. Don't get me wrong. I bought those quick fix programs to try and learn about podcasting, or let's see, what else did I buy? It was like marketing tools, how to have a freebie. And what it comes down to is knowing your why. Why are you doing this? Why are you creating this program? Who are you? because that's the most important thing, really developing your own messaging, because only you are you. And then the researching components, like I looked all different coaches up. And in the end, because I was doing that, I really feel, that the universe kind of has your back. A coach reached out to me and she happened to be the right fit for me. So yeah, just do your research and have fun.
Do your research and have fun. And why do you value having fun so much? Why do you think most people struggle at enjoying? Because I think, they need to enjoy the journey. It's not about the goal. Let's kind of get into that. I want to hear your opinion.
Yeah, and I think people focus so much on being the best they can at this very moment, but like celebrating the little things, the little wins. Like I remember when I had my first client book, and I was like, this is huge. I've never done anything like this before. And just thinking of all the things and how I can inspire this person and know that this process is going to be fun for the both of us. That was one thing. And I think I was inspired to go back to my father. When I was a kid, he always loved having fun. He was the person that'd be like, I'll go on all 50 water slides with you if you really want to. He was the one that'd be like, let's go to a Star Trek movie. And just like, he would geek out. And I just saw him, the little things and then the big things. He would just celebrate in the present. And being present is something that I want to continue with his legacy and teach other people to have fun.
I'm just thinking here, a lot of these people that work in businesses, how do you sort of integrate your culture and integrate your business into theirs? Do you sort of work a little bit like a contractor, if you will? Do you sort of work more as a project manager, and do you sort of overlook these people? How does that whole process work? Because that must be very interesting.
It is. And, I do a lot of research on, again, research, but no, all jokes aside, like I do find the companies that I think resonate with my message, or I see that they've already implemented some health into their corporation already and just trying to get them to the next layer. Because you're right, though, like corporations, they have a vibe, they have a culture already. So it's like, how do I fit in? And what I do is I get them on a consult call. It's Enrich Your Workplace. And I talk about the different things I offer to their company and find out their company's needs and tailor it to them. So I have all different master classes, a taking time for you, a harness mindfulness. And then I also have like a myofascial release, which is more of a relaxation session for their company. So kind of seeing what fits. And then if I need to create a new program, I will do it just based on how many people are in that session, or also what individuals need, because sometimes they will have me contracted for one person if they feel like they need help with productivity.
Now, what was sort of the route you took to sort of building your knowledge base? Because you have a BFA in musical theater, I believe, and a lot of other things. How did you sort of build a lot of those skills?
So it's funny because I think the BFA, it helped me with public speaking for sure. And I just realized after college that musical theater is great, but I don't think it's my path for my whole life. And I loved it. I loved performing, but I knew that there was something more. So I searched for different classes. I was actually a smoothie maker at a gym in Chicago, and a woman came up to me and was like, hey, have you ever thought of doing Pilates on the side while you audition for musical theater? And I was like, I never did think about that, but I prefer that over waiting tables because I'm a little clumsy. And so I did that, and I just fell in love with it. And the way I was moving my body just felt so good. that I decided to expand and take more classes, bar, which kind of fit into my already musical theater background. And it just kind of grew from there. I think after my dad passed was when the health coaching stuff really took form. I went to the Integrative Institute of Nutrition. They have a year-long program that you can do, and it taught you kind of coaching skills, but also nutritional principles, different kinds of diets out there, and ways to collaborate, which I think honestly is the key to where my business is now. I've met some incredible business owners who have just, extended their hand to help me go further with where I want to be with my Live Well Enhance You business.
And where do you see the future of Live Well Enhance You?
I really find that, I would love to be that company name for all programs and needs regarding any sort of sustainability in the health and wellness field. So I would love to just kind of make an imprint on Fortune 500 companies and be their go-to girl to do classes, and then eventually have other people to work under the company and thrive in their business with coaching. Because oftentimes coaches can get stuck because owning their own business can be overwhelming. So giving them an outlet to talk to masses of people, their message, would be unbelievable. And it's a huge dream of mine.
And you talk a lot about Pilates. Can you sort of get into what those actually are? Because I have no idea. Is it sort of like some type of breathing exercise or yoga?
Yes. So it's interesting because, and you know what, Jimbo, I'll send you a video of this afterwards, after a discussion. But there was this cartoon that kind of summed up what Pilates is. It's actually a guy that created it. His name was Joseph Pilates, and he was in an internment camp long time ago, and he devised a series of movements to help you with breath and help you with strength at the same time. So he created a mat series. He called it Contrology. And a lot of it was kind of based off of a baby and how they moved and how they would rock and roll and move. And it's pretty fascinating. And then the other thing he did was he would use equipment that you'd have in your house. So one example is a bed. He kind of cut it up. He took the springs out, added some pulleys, and then created a strength training machine for that. And it's been one of the best ways to rehab an injury. A lot of people, after they have surgery, they'll go to a physical therapist and then usually come to a Pilates trainer to retrain their muscles and get them stronger than before.
So Pilates seems quite interesting. And what do you think are some misconceptions people have about what you do and what you provide to other people?
So with, I'd say with fitness, that, especially with Pilates, they feel like, especially a misconception is, well, it's not really strength training. And I was like, well, it depends on what kind of tension you put on it, because you can make it as hard or as easy as you want. So it's just retraining the brain that you don't need hundreds of pounds to get a good workout. And then the other one regarding, health coaching, I think there's a stigma just around mental health or emotional health that you kind of have to toughen up. And I think now society is starting to open up a little bit more about that and promote mental health services. But I mean, especially for guys, it can be a little bit more challenging, I feel. But just misconceptions, just being able to understand that this is one moment in time, that you don't have to live in that space, and be able to move progressively on from there.
And when you were continuing your business and you were selling your product, can you sort of give me a bit of a rundown on your website and how the whole thing works? And if you want, you can bring up your website right now if you're on your laptop, and we could show it too.
Yeah, for sure. And I always do love to ask this, though, for the guests, or I'm sorry, because I'm a podcaster too, but for the interviewer, how are you doing? How are you doing today?
Doing well.
Good.
So, can you sort of run through what the program is about and sort of how long the whole thing takes? So, when you do a 3-month program, is it more of what type of change do you think most people expect within 3 months working with you?
I think it depends, right? I feel some people expect that they're going to completely change their life and everything's going to be perfect in 3 months. But then some people know, especially with whatever is going on in their life, that it's baby steps, and they're probably going to make, 5 to 8 changes in their life, and they're going to feel great about it, even if it's the smallest. Like, again, black coffee versus putting 3 teaspoons of sugar in their coffee every morning. Just finding little ways to improve their health and also get rid of some of the toxins in their body. So in my program, we really focus in on Enhance Your Life. We focus in on detoxifying your life, looking at everything from the inside out. So managing, kind of going up, talking about their stressors, what's currently getting in their way of enjoying their success, and taking time to create and cultivate a more positive mindset around those stressors versus beating ourselves up of those stressors. And
what's a typical client experience that you see where they need to detoxify their life when it comes to a business environment? Is the detoxification usually in where they work at, or is it sort of outside in their own lives?
Some people come to me because they have a toxic work environment, and we then figure out ways to make it more manageable for them, or come up with ways to communicate. Let's say it's a boss, communicate with them in an appropriate but sternful manner so that they can start excelling at work versus holding themselves back and playing it small. For other people, it might be a career shift. And so they're working through all their stress. Like one of my clients, she was getting rashes all over her body. She was a stressed out accountant doing taxes. Tax season is extremely ridiculous with the kind of work hours that you have during that time. And she just was like inflamed everywhere in her body. So we were trying to figure out, okay, let's dig deeper. What kind of rituals or new routines we can create for her every day. So that's something you can expect from a program with me, is really digging deeper into what's actually happening in the body and making real sustainable steps to get you to reach your goals.
Okay. And let's go now into the individual coaching session. So yes, no, let's stay on that screen. We still have some stuff to talk about there. Yeah.
Yeah. So fitness is still a big part. The Elevate Your Life program is just basically an intensified version, and you get more into the brain-body connection with that. So it has a component of fitness once a week, and then health coaching the other time that week. So I'll see you twice in a week to really get to or really find out what's going on. It's a really nice way to understand the brain body.
Can we please jump back to the first slide?
For sure.
Yeah, so the brain and gut connection and the fitness plan, how does that sort of work now?
Yeah, so I create a customized plan for them that isn't scary. It's to meet them where they are at. And then also nutrition wise, kind of going through their pantry and seeing what they're actually eating. And so that they can see and understand what's working and what's not for their body. And then I can create different options for them to have in their pantry, or maybe switching that for something that's vegetable forward, plant friendly forward, or having a different type of protein, you know, going more grass fed versus just something that is easy to grab in a grocery store.
So I definitely understand that you give people sort of a fitness plan, but how do you sort of look at their brain and gut connection in a sense? Do you sort of look more for allergies, certain difficulties? Do you do saliva? I'm not sure. How do you look at their...
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So I do give them that Follow Your Gut e-workbook. So from there, it's the irritants, what is irritating their body. And prior to that, before I even have our first session, I do a health history with them. So I find out, you know, past things, whether they have high blood pressure or they have allergies to certain foods. So that way I know what recipes or things to avoid in sending them and work on the things that are right for their body. And then also taking things out. So I'm big into, let's see what's irritating the gut. And then also seeing what's clogging up the brain. So what's getting you to feel brain fog during the day, and finding the right amount for that person. Because if you're a 6'2" guy versus me, a 5'4" girl, it's going to be a different amount of water you need. One size doesn't fit all.
Now with personalized worksheets, are those more Q&A based, or how do those work? What type of information do you get from those? Is that part of the getting information for sort of brain gut connection and fitness plan? I'm assuming you work with tons and tons of people, so maybe these worksheets are used for you to get lots of information very quickly.
Exactly. So I do have general worksheets, and then sometimes, depending on the person, I create just literally a plan for them. So what exactly do they need after we, like I said, after that health history, after the gut workbook, I see, okay, this is working, this is not working. Let's come up with a game plan for these next 3 months. And then let's add that fitness element to it and make sure I hold them accountable. So I'll check in on them with Voxer and do little messages like, hey, how's your Wednesday been going? Specifically, have you had enough water today? So just checking in always, because that's how they succeed, is really with accountability, is what I've found.
Now, what about the investment and the pay in full bonus? Can you sort of get into sort of the business side of this? Were your costs always like this? Do you sort of work with clients thinking more in the long term, or is it more a short-term contract deal? How does this all work?
Yeah, so I basically have come up with the investment with my experience, and then B, with how I know how valuable this is for these people, especially in corporations, corporate professionals. They want that high touch service. So I'm not going to just give them something that's on Pinterest. I'm going to make sure that this really resonates with their whole being. This is for them. This is for the stressed out high achiever that knows if they don't change this now, it's just going to get worse. So that's why I've created this investment. And investment, I like better than cost, because if you're saying I'm investing in my future versus this is the cost of the program, I have found that it also creates this mind shift. Like I'm putting some time into this. I'm really going to show up for this program.
All right, now I think we should go to the second slide now. Definitely. You covered a lot of great stuff here. I sort of have an understanding about how you get clients and how you sort of draw them in. You do individualized coaching, you understand how they operate, you get information, and then you tell them that you're investing in them, So I think those are some really good selling points. Now,
Thank you.
You have your Elevate Your Life 3-month program. Is this any different from the other programs? So this one looks more like, this is a lot more activity based from what I can see.
Yes. And this has been a great program for my clients that have been in my fitness world and are starting to want that extra push and never really invested in their health before. So it's a non-scary way to get them in, and it gets more time with me, and they also get the benefit of feeling both the brain and body connection work in a short period of time, 90 days, and you get all of those sessions twice a week. It just can fill them up with a lot more energy faster. So that's why I created that program. And then I did from there, like after those two programs were created, I decided to start to reach out to businesses. So I knew that was my next step.
All right. Sounds good. And now enrich your workplace. So this one's okay. So this one looks more mind focused now.
Yeah.
Oh, this one.
Definitely. I came up with this. Again, I love having ease, if you couldn't tell. So I was like, okay, here is one level, enhance, and then elevate, and then tying it all together, bringing it into the workplace was the last level that I felt needed to happen. So some of my clients have actually referred me to their businesses and their offices, and I'll do a Pilates plus stretch class or reduce stress, improve productivity masterclass. It just gives them different options for their workplace. And I usually send a brochure along, have the company hop on a call so I can meet their needs.
And this is a bit interesting because I do understand a little bit on coaching, and I think group coaching, well, this is my understanding, group coaching is a lot more better for businesses. They're a lot more in the later stages because you can cover a lot more people, but private sort of is the ideal one when your business is first starting out. And I find usually a coach will commit to one or the other. Which ones are you more committed to? Are you more of the group coacher type or the private coacher type?
So it's funny because I've been doing fitness for so long as a group instructor. And then I've also been doing private coaching for the exact amount of period of time. So when I first started my expansion of doing health coaching, I knew that I wanted to still have both in my life. So I took action right away in both, which a lot of people would say, are you nuts? Like that's a little too crazy. But I've made it easy in a sense that it's contract based, right? So I might do a master class for them, But if they feel once I've connected with them or once I've connected with some of their employees, I might get a reach out saying, hey, I would love to do some private coaching with you. So it just is a way to kind of go hand in hand and kind of help layer my own business.
And when you say weekly, monthly, or quarterly, what does that mean? I know I'm nitpicking here a little bit, but
No, that's
I
fine.
think people should know about this.
So if I do a big corporate contract, I will actually give them the option of, hey, does your business need me to do workshops, masterclasses, or are you looking for a small group coaching program where I come into your office weekly, bi-weekly, or monthly to kind of examine those? Let's say there's like 5 people in one group of the office, and we just focus in on maybe their limiting beliefs of how they are productive with their job, or limiting beliefs of I can't make it to the next level in my career. So encouraging them and finding ways to improve their skill level or just be a little more productive around their time at work. So that's what the difference is between those.
So any of the people here listening can actually just call you and you could sort of provide them with a little bit of this enrich your workplace option, correct?
Definitely. Yep.
Right. And I'm looking at the masterclass topics here and sort of give, these all look fairly similar, but sort of give your view on how reducing stress improves productivity, harnessing mindfulness, taking time for you, following your gut. How do all of these things work and fall in line? You don't have to give everything.
Yeah, I'd say the reduce stress, improve productivity. What I liked about it was the juxtaposition between the two. So you wouldn't think that reducing your stress would actually give you more time to be productive, but it does. Because if you're able to create different spaces, and I go into different spaces of your home life and then of like your office surroundings, and talking about creating a lovely space for you to work in, it really does help you with your productivity because you're not surrounded by clutter. So that's just one example of what I would talk about in there. In Harness Mindfulness, I talk about the 3 different types of self-care, whether it be emotional, physical. My gosh, of course, I will forget the other one. But emotional, physical are definitely a huge component. And just being aware that you don't have to get a massage to necessarily experience self-care. There's simple ways, even like a deep breath is going to help you. So that's something that's important. And then following your gut is the other one that is very popular. And it's just all about understanding gut health and how detoxifying your gut is going to help you increase your energy levels for your whole day.
And sort of following your gut, how does that sort of, so I understand gut feeling can be intuition. It could be feeling. How do you sort of tap into your gut feeling? Because it's probably unique for everyone.
Yeah. So for me, I personally experienced that when I started understanding what was wrong with my gut and the different times of day that my stomach would be in knots, it was usually around some sort of thing that was stressing me out. So let's say I was going to give a speech, right? I was going to be a speaker at an event. I would start to feel my stomach tensing up. Maybe I would get a little sort of like pulsing sensation in the frontal cortex of my brain, and I would just immediately go in flight or fight mode. So it's having the awareness to know, hey, this is going to pass. And then also I need to take a moment for myself to just breathe and let that energy out. If I need to use some sort of technique, like a myofascial technique, giving myself a massage or getting on my foam roller if I'm at home to just release some of that energy, that negative energy. That's what I encourage myself to do and my clients.
Okay. And then facial release techniques. I've never heard of that before. That sounds really interesting.
So I teach this fascial release. It's basically, you can, it's almost like a massage, and you just give yourself, especially when you get tense, kind of right at the side. You can start at your cheekbones, and then you can work your way up to the crown of your head and give a cranial massage, go from front to back, just to release some of that energy that might be stuck. And I'm really big on stuck energy. We don't want to feel like glue. So just kind of like, even like something like this, pulling apart and just trying to release any stuck energy through our bodies.
All right, let's go to the next slide now. Let's see what that's about.
Yeah, so I have all these different fitness conditioning packages and enhanced fitness plan. And then I do a couple of group fitness classes. This was especially helpful during COVID. Many of my clients that actually I used to train at corporations, they were telling me they were in need of something. So I created this and an easy booking link for them. And then the last thing that I have are some add-ons, a pantry cleanup, just a nice assessment of what's going on in your fridge. And I haven't done this as much just because people haven't felt totally comfortable in a grocery store, but taking them through a grocery store and how to navigate the produce as well as the meats and different proteins, what is pretty good and what kind of is a little toxic for their bodies. So meeting their dietary needs, of course, too.
So pantry cleanup, what is sort of your, okay, I think we could go on about that after you show me all this. Yeah, let's just keep going on the slides. I'll ask
So the rest of this is just some testimonials. I have abundance of them over the years, and it's really, this was actually the person I was telling you about earlier, who's the CFO, and she started with Pilates and then started in the realm of coaching and just really, progressed, and I just absolutely loved working with her. I've worked with, I work with a variety of people. I've worked with a journalist, and then a data and analyst manager. So it's been, I'm very blessed and happy to work with everyone that I've had. It's just been an amazing experience, and I'm excited for the future.
All right, very good. Now, Now the next thing I kind of want to get into is what is sort of I kind of noticed at the end, I kind of have an understanding of what you know. You look at what people are doing with food, and then you sort of show them how to shop. I think every sort of healthy person has a set of, a general philosophy on are you more low carb, high carb, something between those lines? Are you more of a style of eating? Like, how does that work?
For me, I definitely am into intermittent fasting, so eating during those 8 hours, and then having the rest of the hours off just to let the body process the food. But I'm not into low carb, high carb, or what was the other one that's very popular? Keto. I'm never into prescribing. I always say if you need to go to a dietitian, go and do that. But I'd rather them intuitively think about what they're putting into their bodies and choosing that healthier option. So yeah, if if you're doing grass-fed meat, it's $2 more, but you're probably getting the right portion that's for your body. So, and starting to enjoy those flavors and figuring out ways to season. I love to teach about seasoning, different salts and different things you can create in your home versus just buying a bottle and dumping it on there. Makes it more fun.
Right. And how do you think what you eat may be a little bit different from the average person? I'm trying to get the secret here, if you want.
Yeah, I think for me, it's just taking simple ingredients and bringing them together to make them brighter versus heavy. So I might choose for my salad dressing to do olive oil, a little balsamic, and then lime juice. And it's just 3 things. And then maybe I'd add just a tad bit of salt, but I'm not going to douse it in salt, just a pinch, just to give it a little bit more flavor. Or pepper, if you can't have salts.
And how was your way of eating sort of different from the way you first began to eat? How did you kind of make that jump? Well, what were sort of the issues you had with eating? Your relationship?
I was a grab and go person, and I wouldn't even think of what I was putting into my body. So like in college, Subway, eat fresh, it wasn't at all for my body. My body would be, and I'm not going to gross anyone else out, but I'd be on the toilet a lot, and I was like, this is not good for my stomach. But it was also because I was having soda, and soda doesn't work for me. So just changing and switching my mindset of what I needed.
And sort of that process, when you eat those foods all the time, what type of fasting style do you do? I'm not really a faster. I like to eat, a little bit of food every day, but are you more of an OMAD type, or, what is your opinion on all these different styles of fasting? Fasting is a very, very large topic.
Exactly. There's so many, and there's such a variety. And even in the intermittent fasting, there's like 5 different programs. For me, it's when I'm hungry, not starving, but when I'm hungry, I'll eat. So within those 8 hours, today I got Chipotle because I was like, if I keep craving Chipotle, then it's going to get out of hand. And then I'm going to just stack everything on top and eat it all in one sitting. Versus like I acknowledged it. I went and I was hungry, not starving, and I had the right amount of portion for that Chipotle today. But then I also knew tonight I'm going to have something that's a little more balanced regarding, protein. I didn't have much of that. I had more beans and rice, which is a complete protein, but I know for my body, especially with my fitness training, that I need a bit more. So just kind of adding on to my my fasting. It changes, honestly, daily, just depending on my activity level.
So you will fluctuate your fasting. So you won't always do maybe a 24-hour fast or stopping. Okay.
Yeah. It will be like I will eat for. I won't say I will eat for 8 hours, but I'm eating through those 8 hours, and I also have like 3 meals, or I might have two meals and then like 3 maybe snacks like hummus and vegetables. But for the most part, it's just during those 8 hours, and then I let my body rest for 12. But I also don't do that every day, and everyone's different, right? Some people do it Monday through Friday and then don't do it on the weekends. For me, I kind of do it on Tuesdays and Thursdays because that's when I'm not as active, maybe with my fitness. So I know I can have a longer period of time to just let my body relax.
And we're talking about mindset. Can you actually have the approach of losing weight, but not the mindset? How important is the mindset when you do all this? And what is your headspace need to look like when you're going through and doing this stuff?
Well, for me, it's it's the knowing that I can do these things versus my limiting beliefs in the past where I've had fears, about the kind of food I've been putting into my body. Like I was like, oh no, I had a soda today that will throw everything off for the week, or knowing that it's okay and reminding my mind that everything is always changing. So that's something I've particularly worked on. With my clients, something that comes up a lot is regarding their weight. And it can be very challenging, especially when they're starting to amp up, let's say, protein, and they might, and also their weight training, they might notice that they're a little bit more, like their weight has gone up a little bit, but their fat has actually gone down because they're doing all the necessary things to actually strengthen the body. So we're building that muscle, not to the point where we feel like huge or like the Hulk, but we're building it appropriately to our body mass. And they also notice, even though their weight is increasing, that they're starting to fit into maybe some of the clothes that used to be tighter. So it is a mindset shift, because as soon as they see the scale weight, they're immediately thinking, oh crap, I'm gaining weight. But really what they're doing is increasing their muscle mass.
And what were some unique challenges or unique tribulations you had to sort of go through compared to other people?
So I think, honestly, with my dad passing, I was emotionally eating like crazy. And, not saying that other people have not lost their father. It's a horrible club to be in, but that was honestly the hardest thing I ever had to go through, because not only did I feel like I had to be strong for myself, I had to be a rock for my mom, and I'm an only child. So there was just a lot of, I need to now step up and be, the supporter, be there for everyone. But really, I needed to be there for myself to help other people.
And when you're running your business, who do you think is your main client base? And what type of client base are you thinking about spreading out to in the future? So this is not a business question, but more of an audience sort of entertainer question.
Yeah, it's funny, because I'm still a creative at heart. So on the side, I am also making music, and that's a huge part of my life, and it always will be. And I feel I'm a better coach when that's still a part of my life. So my friend and I are actually writing music right now to actually bring to different songwriters, you could say, or different why can't I think of the world, but we're starting to reach out to like TV shows and send our music. So that's another avenue that will always be there, that I'm so passionate about, is just writing and creating. But I think my client is going to start to go into the more creative type, maybe someone that is a writer or someone that is a musician looking to create a better schedule for themselves, because they're always on the road, because I've been there. And so it's something I'm passionate about, and helping provide a service for them.
Now, you mentioned passion. Why do you think passion is such an important thing to have?
I feel if you don't have passion, then why are you doing what you do? And I don't mean that to sound so blunt, but if it's not making you happy and it's not lighting you up inside, then chances are you're living in that stuck energy, and you're not going to feel like you can get to the next level of whatever your career is at.
Now, to begin ending this off a little bit, what are some certain impacts you want your business to have? And how are you going to sort of use music in a sense to kind of build off from what you're doing now?
Yeah, so I kind of already do this in some of my sessions. I usually start the session with music, especially if it's a corporate client. I like to put in a positive light energy. And so maybe it's a Rolling Stones song. I love them so much. And like the song Time Is on Your Side, or Time Is on My Side. I love to play that, to have it as a reminder, and they hear it over and over in their head to kind of reinforce these positive habitual changes they can make in their lives. So I'm starting to already do the music thing, but creatively, I would love to see my clients start to find like poetry or take up a hobby. Maybe it's to do electrician work on the side, something that is going to bring them a different type of energy than their work.
And why do you think someone would need a different type of energy? Is that more of a...
That might be a me thing for sure as a coach, but if it's just constantly mundane, I have found that other parts of my clients' lives start to disintegrate. Like it could be their relationship, it could be their career, it could be their relationship with food. It could be that they're bored with their fitness routine, so they stop completely. If they find new ways to energetically get them into a joyful space, I've just found that they find something new and exciting about themselves that makes them want to, almost like an adrenaline rush, feel that more.
And this is a question I always ask the coaches that come on my show. And what do you consider the definition of a coach?
I think it's someone that listens to their client. Like, I think that's what honestly makes a coach a just amazingly talented and have the ability to just crush any sort of limiting belief they ever had. I feel coaches, a lot of us can get stuck in one place versus think outside of the box and where their company could go next. But definitely a good listener, someone who's driven, passionate, and always learning is a coach that I look for.
Okay, and are there any final words or statements you'd like to give to the audience?
For sure. I want to remind everyone that they can, if they motivate their minds, the body can follow, and that it doesn't have to happen like a snap of the hand. It will take time, but it will be worth the time because you're going to discover so many wonderful things about yourself if you give yourself a chance to get coached. And if anyone ever wants to, come and do a 30-minute consult, I do a customized 30-minute free balanced your life plan. And it's been a great way to just meet people and also find some takeaways that you can implement that day.
Okay, well, thank you for being on the Jimbo Paris Show.
Thank you so much for having me. This was a wonderful conversation.
Thanks again.